by popular demand, Pierce is finally in the park. Pierce is not the only addition coming in this episode, though. Pierce is going to be sharing this habitat that I'm building right here with Camarasaurus and Styracosaurus, and later in this same episode I'm also building habitats for Dilophosaurus and Suchomimus, so there is a lot to do in this speed build video for Jurassic World Evolution 2. Of course, this is Mini Mantah Corp Island, my park build, which incorporates 4 entirely different biomes in a single build, and this is the desert section. We're going to be completing that in this video, which, yeah, I did not expect to be able to do. It took me about 2 hours to do all of this building, but I've shrunk it down to about 25 minutes, so I hope you'll join me for this video and that it'll give you plenty of ideas for your own builds. One thing that I was definitely just thinking about constantly as I was doing this build was that I really just enjoy the concept, and I want to highly recommend that you try this as well. Just pick a couple of biomes and try to incorporate them into one park. Because honestly, while I was building in this desert section and I was heading into, for example, the foliage tab, it was a bit of a surprise every time that the taiga trees were at the top. Because I'm in the taiga biome, or maybe this is Alpine actually, but you get what I mean. I was like confused, like, wait, what are these pine trees and fluffy bushes doing here? I'm in the desert, aren't I? So yeah, I was totally like buying my own deception here. So that was just really fun. There are the fluffy bushes, by the way. You know I can never resist the fluffy bushes. Anyway, so this is a mixed herbivore habitat that is going in front of the Raptor Arena, the repurposed San Diego amphitheater. And this is going to be housing the Camarasaurus, Styracosaurus, and Pierce. Oh my god, so many people requested Pierce. Honestly, more people have requested Pierce to get added to the park than Big Edie. Or is it Little Edie? Comment down below. Which one do we have in the game? Big Edie or Little Edie? I keep forgetting. Anyway, so yeah, a lot of people are really excited about Pierce. Now, people were kind of mixed on which biome they wanted Pierce to be in. A lot of people wanted him in the snow biome, which we finished last week. Some other people wanted him in temperate, but I've chucked him into the desert here, which was also requested plenty of times. And I just think, personally, he fits here the best. So, yeah, that's why we did that. Now, obviously, during this build, you've already seen me place so many rocks. It's absolutely ridiculous. But, of course, you know, in absence of being able to use a lot of trees to really sell that desert aesthetic, but still wanting to add a lot of detail, you end up just using a whole lot of rocks. And this plant, by the way, Small Tree 2 from the desert section. Love this one. Now, this habitat has plenty of ways for our guests to experience it. Of course, at the start of this video, you saw me put the Tor Track through here. There's a viewing gallery right at the bottom right now that's looking into this habitat, looking at this beautiful log. And there's also path going around the amphitheater, and there's a little elevated guest section. All of that is looking out into this habitat, so honestly, Pierce is not going to get much privacy. But apparently, he's a star. He is the moment. So yeah, people really like Pierce. So we have to make sure that our guests can actually see it. So now that I've finished the habitat behind us, I'm moving on to this guest section that again overlooks it. So I have, you know, regular amenities and stuff, and I decided to do something a little bit different here and line the terrace, I suppose, of the restaurant with planters to sort of separate it from the rest. And something that I do later on is pull the planters out a little bit more to sort of expand the terrace that the restaurant has available. Just little things that I hope you pick up on and get inspired by and incorporate in your own builds, you know, to add just a little bit more detail, because honestly that just helps a park so much in how it looks. Just add as much detail as you and whatever system you're running the game on can handle. And adding detail is really the name of the game for me during this build. Like, you see these little patches between the path and the fence. We gotta fill that in with stuff, you know, rocks, plants, decorations. And here we have a section where the Tor Track sort of runs alongside the path. And I decided to line that with these wall pieces. You can see right there, the Tor is in front of it. So it just creates a backdrop. Because again, our guests are going to be seeing these vehicles drive by, and they might want to wave at the people in there, you know, wish them luck as they head into all of these habitats. Actually, having said that, this Tor doesn't go into that many habitats, only a couple. The Tor is mostly used for transport. You can see me adding the stupidity barriers in front. My reasoning behind this is, if this was a real place, 100% people would accidentally, on purpose, wander onto the Tor Track and either cause delays to the vehicles or just get run over. So that's why I added a little bit of a stupidity barrier there. And another seating section, all that stuff. So here I go again with lining the restaurant with planters. And this time, as you can see, I'm extending it out a little bit. So we're giving the terrace that surrounds the restaurant a little bit more space so we can add more tables and chairs and such. You know, just playing with the footprint of the building and making that bigger in some instances to add a little bit of variation, which I thought was pretty nice. So yeah, again, maybe something that you can use as well. So this is where the path slopes down, and I added 2 Spinosaurus skeletons because if you remember from way earlier on in this series, at the very end of the desert section is actually the Spinosaurus habitat, which is one of the first habitats we built for this series, maybe even the first. It's been a while, honestly. Looking up the comments for people requesting Piers, I was a little shocked to be confronted with the knowledge that this series has been running for 5 months already. Now, we did take a 1-month break, but still, that is a long time for a series to be running. So I am so grateful for anyone who is still watching. If you're still watching and you're still enjoying the series, please give it a like. That just helps me out so much and also just lets me know that you guys are enjoying this. And I'm so looking forward to the tour for this park as well. Someone asked me on last week's episode, you know, which one do I like better, Mini Mantah Corp Island or Mini Nublar? And obviously I had Mini Nublar as my favorite park build of 2023, and I'm still a really big fan of that park. But Mini Mantah Corp Island is shaping up really nicely. So I'm so excited for the tour and to be showing you guys that. And considering how much faster the building process is now that I've decided to switch it to the speed builds, I really think that the tour is going to be coming relatively soon. I think that maybe in 1 or max 2 episodes, I'll be able to finish the temperate section, which is the last biome on my Mini Mantah Corp Island. So yeah, after that is going to be the tour, and I'd be really interested to see what you guys think, how it shapes up against Mini Nublar. In the meantime, in the background, I'm still adding more and more detail and decoration. I've lined a lot of path with these rocks. And speaking of lining path, I'm lining this path with the low wall piece. This is my stupidity barrier because behind that low wall piece is the Tor Track. You can see that it crosses over the path right there. That leads into the Spinosaurus section. I always, like, when path gets close to a Tor Track or to elevation, I add a stupidity barrier. I also added a little, like, centerpiece to the Spinosaurus area, and of course more detail on this really long path as well. Now you can see that there's, in the middle of all of that, there is an aviary. I just wanted to add an aviary as a building, because I think it looks nice. I think it shakes it up. It adds a bit of needed variation. And then I started to think about what we could do with that aviary to make it make sense. Now, flying species make it make sense, but that's not necessarily how we roll. So what I did with that aviary, it's actually a biome within a biome. So stay tuned for that one. Ooh, little cliffhanger. Ooh. You'll see later on in the video. Anyway, even more rocks. I don't know, no path left unlined. I feel like path without something lining it just looks so naked, which is why I really feel like we need low fences. Like, some people would point out that, oh, in real theme parks, paths aren't lined either. I'm not really sure if that's true. I'm pretty sure paths are lined with like a super low fence. Like I'm talking ankle height fence. At least the most recent theme park that I've been to, I'm pretty sure has like super low fencing lining the path so you don't, walk off into the surrounding environment. So, something like that I'd accept as well. But I just feel like path needs something around it. The little curb that they added automatically just isn't cutting it for me. So this is actually the Suchomimus habitat that we're going to be looking into, and I had a bit of a crazy idea, which is to use these tiny potted plant items to create this flower bed. This eats FPS. I don't think I would, in good conscience, recommend it. But there was an idea and I followed through. Anyway, so that is one of the ways people can look into the Suchomimus habitat. That is just from the path. There's also 2 viewing galleries at different elevations looking into it. Again, I just think it's really interesting when you're adding viewing opportunities to a habitat that you actually create different views. The habitat itself is pretty simple. I just used the paleobotany foliage brush, enhance that or thicken it out with some palm trees and then just a whole lot of rocks. And honestly, that's already the Suchomimus habitat done. And now moving over to a little beach section, which is probably not something that a lot of you guys would use or waste space on. I know that for most people when they're building a park, they're really trying to optimize how many species they can fit into a park. And, this real estate could have been used for a dinosaur habitat. But I think that giving space to guest areas and guest moments like this really helps with the realism. And I also was thinking about how it can sort of sell the idea that it's actually really warm in this area of the map. So I was just thinking, a beach, people lounging in beach chairs and all that, frolicking in the sand, all that sort of stuff. So that's why down below on the beach, it's not a habitat, it's going to be just a pure guest area. And speaking of guest area, I'm also working on a guest area up top here. Left a little bit of a cutout to put a tree. There's, of course, the access point for the mini security center for the Velociraptor and Utahraptor habitat. Also, again, just a tiny injection of realism. I would imagine that Utahraptor and Velociraptor are like the most dangerous species in the park due to their, canon intelligence. So that's why I added that ranger station over there, like a quick response team. And yeah, just in front, there's this nice little plaza that leads along there, leads to the Suchomimus viewing gallery, leads to the Tor and Aviary, and leads down here to the beach. Now, the brown path, you have to use your imagination and sort of pretend that is a wooden deck built onto the beach. And of course, just a whole lot of these new, I say new, they've been in the game for a while, but these lounge chairs with the individually placeable parasols, and just a whole lot of them. It's a big park, it's gonna have a big capacity, so it would have a lot of people just lounging on the beach. And the hotel that's located right by it, I'm pretending that it's not actually a hotel, but it's like a beachside cafe or something like that. And this I thought was pretty funny. Again, for that little bit of realism, some extra chairs and parasols that people are just free to grab themselves. And you'll also notice that some parasols are open, some parasols are closed. Again, to make it seem like someone actually went out there and opened some, closed some, whatever. So yeah, the hotel is actually a little cafe, so I've added that terrace at the back, and this is just the entry section to all of that. It's just really simple, lining it with planters, because again, no path left unlined. And the final finishing touch on the beach is lining part of the path with palm trees. Speaking of palm trees, I'm also putting in a lot over here. Again, that just strip of land, it needed to be filled in with something, so I went with palm trees and these bushy tree number 2 to sort of fill that up and add a little bit of greenery to this space. At this point, I will say, I was a little tired of placing a whole lot of rocks. I was looking for alternatives. So that might be, that might have led to it turning out a little bit more green than I initially intended. This is one of my favorite things to do. A fountain and a tree planter surrounded with benches and add an appropriate little flower pot. I think that looks super cute. And also I think that a park would just have a lot of seating opportunities all throughout the park for people to rest. Especially, that's something I thought about for the desert section. Especially here, you know, we're pretending that it's actually hot here. And when it's hot, people need to rest more often. And you need to provide shade. So that's also why, you know, there's just, you know, random trees at certain points. These potted palms, for example, just to add a bit of shade, and then adding a seating opportunity underneath there so people can, you know, have a rest, cool down, because this is the desert, quote unquote. An attempt was made. I did my best to, yeah, again, just try to sell the idea of the different biomes as much as possible and inject that with some realism. And now we're moving on to the aviary. And what I decided to do with the aviary was turn it into yet another biome. So to the best of this biome's abilities, I've turned it into sort of like a tropical environment. And we're going to be adding the Dilophosaurus and Tapejara to this. Dilophosaurus was also quite often requested. And I felt like this was a fun way to add them to the park, give them like this biome within a biome. It's biomeception at this point. Now, obviously, I chose for Mini Mantah Corp Island to have the desert, redwood, taiga, and temperate biome, because I felt like I could achieve those most realistically with the actual biome, like the in-game biome that we are in. I felt like jungle works a little less well, in part because the grass on this biome is so, you know, dry looking, brown looking. But for this tiny section just within this aviary, I felt like I could pull that off and just add a whole lot of the tropical trees to fill it out a bit. So here come the Tapejara as well, flying into the aviary. I just added Tapejara to the Dilophosaurus habitat because, you know, they both have this really colorful, patterned head thing going on. That's the theme, colorful, patterned head things. Yeah. Sometimes I don't put that much thought into things. I just pick the species that I like. Again, a random cutout to add a tree for some shade, filling in the path, all of that good stuff. You know I love me some path. And then the rest is just me adding some details to this section over here and going around a little bit and adding more detail to other areas as well. If you've made it this far in the video, you're an absolute trooper. Thank you very much. I hope you're still enjoying the series. Again, please give the video a like if you are. And also, please keep on coming through with the suggestions for the species that you want. Next week, we're going to be working on the temperate biome. I think I might be able to make it work in one episode, considering just how much work I got done in the desert section in just one episode. So yeah, let me know what species you want me to add to the temperate section of Mini Mantah Corp Island, the final biome available in our 4-biome park. And of course, if you are as excited about the tour as I am, stay tuned. If you're not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing to the channel to make sure that you're not actually going to miss out on the tour and, of course, all of the other content on the channel. We'd love to have you join and geek out over the game, especially since there's going to be news about a new DLC and update coming any day now, so exciting times all around. Just a whole lot of stuff that you don't want to miss out on if you're as big of a fan of this game as I am. In the meantime, as I said, I'm still just adding a whole lot of rocks and a whole lot of details. And what might be a tip for you guys if you've been building a park over the course of several or even just one update in the game, you know, if you still have a park open, I would highly recommend that you go back to the parts that you built before a certain update and add some extra detail. Like what I'm doing right here, this guest section in front of the Spinosaurus viewing area, the Spinosaurus habitat. I built this one like 5 months ago, so that's obviously before the previous update. maybe even 2 updates ago. Anyway, so, you know, there weren't any benches there weren't any bins there, and you might have areas like that in your own parks that you're still working on. Don't forget that, you know, if a new update comes, when a new update comes, to update the parts of the park that you thought you had already completed, that you can actually make just a little, just a tiny bit better by adding the new content that Frontier is continuously adding to their game. I'm really excited about the upcoming update because who knows how much further we can improve the parts of this park that are already done. And speaking of done, the video is done. Well, almost. Just a little bit of a showcase at the end here. So this is the mixed herbivore habitat. Styracosaurus, Camarasaurus, and of course Pierce, as you saw at the start, is also in here. I really love how this looks with the amphitheater in the background. Looks absolutely beautiful. This game, over 2 years down the line, and I still get so giddy when I see stuff like this come together. It looks so good. This is the Suchomimus habitat. A little bit more foliage going on in here. A lot of water. I love this shot right here. And this is also why I wanted to add an aviary to the desert section, because I feel like it's just a nice backdrop to have for your park, honestly, to see from other habitats. And this is inside the aviary. We're just flying through. We have the Tapajara sitting on the rocks, and they're leaving footprints in the sand is one of our Dilophosaurus. They're moving through the water here as well. Just a fun little way to sneak an extra biome into this build, into this overall 4 biome park. So I guess it's now technically, officially, a 5 biome park. I want to thank you so much for watching this episode, and I hope you will join me next week for the temperate section that you can just see in the top right corner over there. Again, leave your species suggestions down below. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game.